have a look at it, we can do that. Sharing you my screen. You see my screen now. Awesome. Can you see?
Oh, nice.
Can you see the slides?
No.
I see your desktop.
No.
Okay, hang on. Let
Now
me.
I can.
Oh,
Oh, I see slides now.
Oh, I like that, Jeff.
How about now?
Yep.
Yeah, I can see.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Let me
got
go over here. Can everyone see other people's faces?
Yep.
Awesome. Very nice. Cool. So we are in a webinar of objection handling. It will be quite interactive. So there'll be a part where it's a bit structured. So let me run through the agenda a little bit. So it will be just a bit of a briefing. I'm going to show you some data and some like just information for us to like have more grounded in terms of the webinar. And then I'm going to go through some of the things that I've just been doing a little bit of research on in terms of objection handling. Then we're going to go into an open space as the webinar will be a little bit more interactive. We can chat about the actual things that you've been actually facing. And so we can kind of like bounce off each other. So far, let me do a briefing. So this should finish by 8:30, so it shouldn't go over time. So with progress so far, so the reason as to why we're holding this webinar here, we realize obviously on Facebook that getting meetings now isn't a huge problem. It is still a challenge and it's still really fun getting it. However, it isn't the biggest problem we have now. Right now, we have a lot of companies that we've met with. So far, in January to March, we had 89 meetings, meaning that we had 89 companies that were willing to meet us. Not just to like book a meeting with us and like leave us there and get stood up, but 89 meetings there. And in March, we hit a peak of 52 meetings. This is mainly more so because the majority of our membership was actually recruited in March. And in April, so far, we have had 23 meetings. So this all up, we know that a lot of companies are wanting to meet us. However, if you see here, if the VP hasn't shown you before, we use an opportunity warmth indicator. It's not just purely actually, is that Ben? Do you guys hear that? Is that him being noisy?
Vacuuming?
So with this, if your VP hasn't shown you, instead of just asking you, okay, where is your company right now? And like, how warm do you think the account is? And you're like, oh, they're kind of warm and they're not warm, whatever it is. We have an indicator for that. So currently, if you're working with the company and they're just reviewing the contract and JQ, we just say an arbitrary number, about 40%. Literally, this is just an indicator that we use. So currently, with all the accounts that I have on the tracker, we have about 17 or so companies. This is not fully updated yet, but we have 17 companies as I last checked that were sitting between 10 and 50%. And we have about 11 accounts that are sitting 50%. What this means is that this is really, really good. When you sign a contract and then open, it's at 60%. The reason why it's at 60 is because we haven't actually delivered the opportunity yet. So that's why it's at 60. That's when the contract actually happens. So we currently got in our entity about 11 companies just the stage before actually signing the contract with us. So what do we do now? Like, what is the biggest problem that's actually stopping us from the meeting to itself and to getting it open? And we assess one of the things maybe objection handling, because we know how to regurgitate and also deliver information to the companies and to their people based on what they're asking and like what they're interested in terms of when they throw questions back at us, or we know how to actually like kind of like nurture them a lot more. We don't necessarily know how to do that. So the main question here is like, how do we convert these companies that are willing to meet with us to something more than just like analogy wise a first date? We want a second date and like, you know, marriage proposal and everything like that. Do you have more people? No, it's just been cool. All right. So with that, does anyone have any questions regarding that? Just the data there. If not, we can move on to the objective of this is, so the objective is like, how do we convert these companies to more than just a first date? And the biggest challenge here, right, is actually getting them to like commit non-financially. So when they sign a contract, as you all know, it's like no financial contract there. However, it is a, I guess a spoken like commitment that we want to move forward, and we have the rights and the like, you know, the clear way that we're allowed to actually open up an opportunity, actually start sourcing people. So with here as well, it's that most salespeople invest hours perfecting their pitch without a second thought to what comes afterwards. So often when you actually go into a meeting, you might be actually being able to do really well, telling them what we do, how much it is, what the process is, and tell them about the CVs. But in terms of like what come afterwards, or what actually happens when they ask a question, or like how to actually follow up after the meeting, or like how to actually really get them more interested and actually start to commit. We don't necessarily know how to do that. I don't necessarily know how to do that, and it's something that we learn. And in terms of ICX, we're quite I guess new in that area. So if you're tired in like losing deals to responses like your price is too high, or now isn't a good time, it's time to actually really get serious about overcoming our objections. So we might get thrown a lot of objections at us, whether it be through the process of lead generation, or within the meeting, or even after meeting, or like when you're following up. Let's dive into a bit deeper about these things. So the first part I was going to cover is like how to respond to objections whilst you're in the meeting at the very least. And there's a couple of like, I guess principles, tips or tricks here and there that you should keep in mind. And give me a shout out if you've done this, or like you look at this and it's something like a big realization to you. The first and foremost, when you're in a meeting or even a call, whatever it is, and they do throw an objection at you, the first thing you should be doing is to listen to the objection before actually handling it. Instead of like getting really defensive. And the reason why I say this is that sometimes they might throw you an objection and actually you have a perfect answer for it, or you want to actually answer right away, but actually you shouldn't be doing that right away because it comes off very defensive. So one of the examples I used was when I was in Queensland with a member and we were doing a mock meeting, and then I was pretending to be the company and he was pitching to me and it didn't make sense. So I threw him an objection and he stopped me and he said, "Wait, let me finish." So with that, it's quite rude. In a sense, like I know that he was really keen on actually just like letting me know, or really keen on like telling me the answer. However, when you're in a conversation like that, it's kind of like when you're in like a first date or whatnot and someone says something and you want to cut in. Like that's really rude. Like that's etiquette in terms of meetings or people. And even if it's an objection, don't get defensive about it. Really listen to it. So that's number one. Like don't go like, "Oh, but," or like, "Oh, but actually, no, you got it wrong," or like something along those lines. Really try to get yourself to like calm down and like listen to it before you actually handle the objection itself. The second one is to say it actually back to the prospect. So these are a couple of like things that you just like really can think about more. Is like when you're sure that the prospect is done talking, try to pretend to look really thoughtfully, and then you're actually really thinking about what they're saying, and then repeat it back to them in terms of how you understand it, because it actually reviews a lot more. So for example, say, "I see that you're concerned about maintenance costs. Is that the case?" And actually, maybe this isn't what they were talking about. So they might say that like the cost is way too expensive, or like they can't handle the cost. And you can ask them, is it like the administrative cost, or is it because of the salary? Then you can like dive into deeper. Maybe the salary wasn't the problem. It was actually administrative fee. Or maybe like the administrative fee wasn't at all the problem and it was actually the salary. Then you can actually dive into deeper about what the prospect really like is, like what is the objection that they actually really have. Because they don't really, sometimes when they say it, they don't actually really mean that. So with the third one there, exploring the reasons. So sometimes the first objection that they say, the first thing that comes to their mind isn't the real problem. So before actually answering it, like try to get down deeper to the problem itself. So for example, ask them more questions to kind of like dig deeper into it. For example, like like these questions here are generic, like has product downtime being a big issue for you? What you would ask in terms of an IGT sense would be like, has hiring been hard for you in the past? Or like, is it because a lot of financial investment has been taken into account the last time that you recruited? Or is it because, like, if they do say it's too expensive, do talk to them about like, was it because it was too what process did you use? Or like, did you recruit just internally? Did you actually outsource it? Was it because the outsourcing cost was like way too expensive? Dive into deeper what their thought is, because they might think right away when you talk about money that they think that you're really expensive, but actually maybe it's because they had a really shitty experience. You don't know, so you shouldn't be just handling the objection based on assumption. Never assume what their objection actually really is and dive into deeper in that. So like do that before you actually handle it. The fourth one is that then once you understand, once you dive deeper and like guess you get into deeper of what they're actually really fearful or really worried about, then you can start answering them the objection itself. So like the problem and the reason as to why usually customers raise an objection is expressing fear. Like for example, if you've ever bought anything, or if you've ever went to get consultants, or like, buying a phone or anything like that, every time that you raise an objection, it actually comes from a place of fear, whether it be, I don't actually know all the information as of yet, or like the price, or perhaps I had a really bad experience before, or I'm really scared because I actually don't know what the term conditions or what am I actually signing myself up to. And an example, a lot of people would have asked you guys, like, at what point, like, do I have to get involved with the visa? They say that out of fear because they're fearing that they, as a company, has to then sponsor this person, which actually costs them a shitload. And that's where we come in and actually figure out, are they fearful of like that sponsorship? And if not, if they're fearful of that, then we can tell them there. So all the questions they ask you actually comes from a fear of like not knowing something. So your task is to alleviate that fear by figuring out what that fear is and then actually answering it later on. So in order to actually, object or answer the objection, you can give them both examples, more information, or like testimonials, and like anything that you have that can help them alleviate that fear. Fear comes from a place where I don't know something. If I don't know and you give me the answers or you give me something that's really credible, then that actually makes me feel a lot less fearful and also trust you a lot more. And then that's how you would answer the objection rather than going straight to the answer. Like try to like really shape it in their mind, and that's how you can like handle that there. And also at the same time, check back with your prospects. For example, if you're in a meeting and they throw you an objection and then you explore into it, then you answer it, check back if that has already been answered for them. Like, does it make sense? Did you have more questions about this one in particular or anything like that? Because then you don't want to move on with the meeting just because like whether it be impatient or that you want to get at all the information and actually don't handle that objection fully. So that in terms of like the steps there. And then after that, really redirect the conversation back to the sales flow. For example, if you only go into like the second point, or like you talked about like duration or maybe just salary, and they've already like done some objections there, after you've answered it, really redirect it back to the conversation itself so that you can continue the flow. Like you're there to really help them understand, like you really be patient with them. The seventh point that I did want to make there is like, never be afraid, and at the same time use it to the full extent that ISIC is a non-for-profit. Most of the time where they would give us objection is like they're like concerned about what our intentions are we a scam, or like why do we want to bring international in? Are we just trafficking labor? What the shit are we actually doing? You can always feel free to bring back that ISIC is a non-for-profit. Like we have no ill intentions. In particular, we don't even work with commission. Like in the sense like you are a full-time like volunteer and you're volunteering to like create opportunities happen. The admin fee is literally just for us to actually sponsor and be able to deliver things. That's as much as it is. So we are not like a scam, or like we don't take more than we actually need. And that's the thing, right? When you do that and when you play the non-for-profit card, for them, they were like, oh, so like we're not just another company out there that's trying to scam or make money off them. Like don't be afraid to use that, because we do good things. Like don't forget that like we do good impact, and use that as like one of your tools to actually object or handle the objection itself. In terms of summary and how to respond to it, these are the 7 points that I came with. They're not the be all the end all, but it's something to really remember and think about, that it is once you're in a meeting or when you're taking someone through this product itself is an experience. And then at any point in time that they have questions or concerns, they are always valid. The customer is always valid if they have a concern. If they don't understand what you're saying, then it's on your behalf, not theirs, because you're communicating and they don't get it because you didn't communicate it in a way that makes sense to them, or the way that they actually be able to receive it. So that's like the first 7 points on how to respond. Does anyone has any thoughts on that, in addition to what other things on how to respond? Because I'll be going through layers of like what to say. Like in terms of particular ones, we'll be going about what layer. Currently, it is like how. How else do people kind of like, I guess, respond to objections?
So that I wanted to ask about was in the past, like recently, I've had people saying like, I don't have time to talk about it right now. And so I guess it's just hard even just to catch them for 10, 15 minutes just to talk about it. That's something I've been struggling with, especially people that I met already. I have one company that verbally agreed to open already. Like in an email, they said, we'll open. And I've been trying to follow up like 3 weeks now. But every time I follow up, they're like, oh, I don't have time right now, don't have time right now. And so I was wondering if you guys have that, and if you guys have thoughts on that.
With that, do you want to quickly jump to slide 17 and check that in? Because in terms of like what to respond with, that's what I'll be going through a little bit later. In terms of right now, it's more of like the etiquette on how to respond. And like the way rather than to what to respond. Yeah. Because like I realized that I could go straight into like saying what the answers are and then people could say that. However, in a meeting, like that member in Queensland, if like you actually just sit there and be like, no, let me finish. Let me like, you know, like let me tell you this, like, you know, you're wrong or like whatever it is. That is where I want to cover as well in terms of like etiquette in case that is a point there.
So, no, I get it. Yeah, that makes sense. It's just like sometimes it's hard to even, like, etiquette isn't even like something to consider when they can't even like talk to you in the first place. But yeah, no, I see where you're coming from.
Does anyone else have any other thoughts in terms of responding to objections, or like my other thing is like, don't make it obvious that you're nervous, or like sometimes when they throw objections at you, you might get flustered because you have a process of what you want to go through. And then you're like, oh shit. Or like they throw a curveball at you that you don't necessarily know how to respond, or forgotten how to answer. Don't make it obvious that you don't know the answer. Make it very extremely like casual as well. That's like really one thing. Like if they like throw, because like it's happened before when I've done like meeting simulations and I've thrown a curveball at people and they just kind of sit there and it's really obvious on their facial expression that they don't know. And like that's okay. Just you need to like, because that says a lot about your credibility. That just says like you are not credible. You have no idea what you're talking about. So that's one thing in terms of like how as well. Does anyone else have any other thoughts on the how? Cool. If not, we'll jump into the common objections. So here I've really summarized a couple that I've mainly come across or heard members come across. And then later on, we have more of an open space where we can like really chuck in what things we have gone across before and actually bounce that off each other, because we've got quite a diverse here. We've got a lot of people from all over like the different states, from the west of Australia to down to Victoria, New South Wales. We just don't have Queensland here. So it's quite diverse. So the first one is like, what happens if, or you may know how to answer this, but here is like what happens in general in like not just ISIC wise when your customer says it's way too expensive. So when a prospect or your customer says it's way too expensive, it isn't always necessarily about the price. So in many cases, they have a budget for your product, but you haven't demonstrated enough value to justify your price. And you think about it, right? It's too expensive, I can't afford it. But you think about it, every single company, what is the most important resource? Humans. So they have a budget for humans. They have a budget for a team and human resource. It's just currently what we're offering right now doesn't seem very viable, that or like not credible enough for them to actually place that money or like open that budget up for us to actually be able to like assist with them. So that's something that you can actually dive into deeper rather than like, because some companies, I do admit some companies don't have the money. However, a lot of companies do have the money. They're just not willing to actually like reproportionate. They don't understand how much we actually cost. So your job there is like to dive it deeper and like don't like what's it called? Resign yourself to be like, oh, okay, you don't have enough money. That's okay. Like don't just like give up. Like don't like be a little bit more persistent. There's a couple of questions that you can ask to dive into deeper about it, or examples such as like what price or what margin would you actually place on this, or like if you're willing to like. Or if this is a service that we can provide in terms of providing talent, especially international talent, what price would you be willing to pay for it? Like, don't be afraid to actually ask them a couple of different things like this, or like, where is your budget currently sitting with expanding your team or obtaining more HR, or like, how much does it actually cost you to actually look for more people? In general, like they may or may not answer you this, but this is something to dive deeper for them to think about, because then once they think about that, then you actually provide them your cost or your pricing and they can realize what the competitiveness of that, or like asking like more general thought process questions such as like, what price would you place on alleviating your team's current work right now? So like actually the question is like, in order for your organization and company to be more productive and actually like get more projects done, how much are you willing to pay for that? So that's kind of like the question that I would want to actually ask in a very like casual and smart manner, because then you can dive into deeper and to see like, you know, you can pay 30,000 for someone with us and actually produce like 50,000. Yes, you can't actually shoot at a number like that, but that's something for them to think about, because human resources, right, are always an investment. That's why people hire people, because that's where you make the money or the impact. So instead of resigning yourself and saying, oh, it's too expensive, ask them a lot more. How much are they willing to pay for this? It's kind of similar with all you guys who went to sales summits with me. With a phone, I told you before, an iPhone probably only costs $200 to make. I don't know, I'm making that up, but it doesn't cost you $1,000 to actually like make it. But what price are you willing to pay for everything that like you have there, as an example? Any other thoughts on like when people say the price is too expensive? Like, how do you guys kind of like approach this?
If I can just jump in here there. I don't actually find they say too expensive. They just question why the price is what it is. And comparing it to the cost of an actual intern, because I believe the Australian minimum wage is what, $42,000, give or take? Is that right?
36,000.
Oh, so minimum wage is just minimum, the same as the thing.
Yeah, we use the minimum wage.
Okay, because I've been told the minimum wage for interns, but at least for companies in Victoria, seems to be $42,000. So they ask why we are able to pay cheaper than the Victorian minimum wage.
And then what do you answer?
I just say because these people aren't coming for the money. These people are coming for the ability to work in a culture, in a workplace, unlike their own, to be able to bring their talents and skills around the world globally.
How does other people answer this?
Will people actually tell you like a number if you ask them?
I don't know. Some they might.
All right.
I haven't tried it.
So I
But
don't know.
you can ask them like in terms of like roughly how much would it actually cost for like to outsource a hiring process. Or in terms of
Okay.
budget, ask them like what do they have a budget for in terms of like hiring or anything
Yeah.
like that.
Like I've never worked in
That
management
conversation
before.
opens up for us,
Yeah.
like they might think that we want to negotiate.
Yeah. It's just like I don't know how kind of confidential that information is. So in that regard, I don't know how open they'd be talking about that. Like I hope they are, but I don't know.
At the same time, it's not that confidential because me as a company, if I had a company, I can call up any HR like service provider and ask them for a quote.
True.
Yeah. In addition to Josh's answer before, I would also leverage off again that we're a not-for-profit. The reason why we get to sponsor the 408 and not every company gets to do that is because we have projects that are cultural exchange projects. Yes, they're coming here to do real work, but the majority of like the things that ISIC delivers is leadership, like sessions and seminars, and that's why we get to sponsor under the 408, and that's why it's like a low cost, because for us the main objective is not the income and not like it's the person coming over here, and every person who signs up with ISIC is here for that, and the 36,000 is so that it can be a legal amount and at the same time for people to have money to be able to like live. That's all.
Yep. Can I also ask, how many other organizations are able to provide the 408 visa?
That I don't know. I don't think many, because the 408 is like quite limited and it's like a very like low, like it's a very unique visa. It's to get visas in Australia, it is actually extremely difficult. That's why we're a niche. Like for companies, like that's why they always ask like, do I have to sponsor? They get very like fearful about that, and when you tell them actually you have no involvement at all, it like get rid of a lot of things, because they don't have to do anything at all. For a company to sponsor somebody, it takes a long goddamn process and it's really expensive as well.
I could imagine.
Yeah.
Okay, no, thank you.
Anyone else have any other thoughts when they hear pricing as an issue?
I've kind of had companies say that they're happy to pay, but they don't want to like nurture the talent and then have the talent disappear in a year.
Yep.
And I've mentioned the new 457 visa, but they were also, fearful that they wouldn't be granted that.
So with us, we have had maybe at the very least like a handful, like at least 5 of our EPs before. I don't have a list of them. Like I do have a list of them on the iGT cheat sheet, that we do have like at least 5 people so far as of I know that have been approved of those visas before. And the thing is, right, yeah, they could nurture people. At the same time, these people who come to these organizations may have already been nurtured. It's a really good chance for them to actually like test these people out for a year before committing, because we understand that for a company, for you to sponsor somebody, it's actually really like a hefty process. So for us here, we can actually help you actually figure out if you actually like this person at the very least, and then commit to something more. As we know, international talent does have a different value proposition to a local talent. So that's something for you to like, I guess that is a added benefit as well, that you can test them out before like committing, because committing to the 457 is like very like difficult.
Yeah.
Just following up on that, what's the number for the, do we know the name of the new 457?
That I haven't looked at yet. I did message
Okay.
you that I said I was going to, but I haven't had a chance to do that yet. Yeah, that's something that we can look into and then just advise the company briefly, just because I know that it's just been reformed and we have no expertise in that, but we can let them know that that is an option and let them know of our past experience at the very least, that we've had many, many great candidates to the point where companies would be willing to go through the hassle to actually sponsor them afterwards.
All right, great. That's a good answer.
We'll move on to the next one. And again, of course, we can come back to it. It's not a problem here. Not the right time for your service. So in terms of like saying, oh, not now or whatever it is. So this may be true because sometimes we do approach a company and they've just like, hired or expanded the entire team and it's just at a really bad timing. And that's the reason as to why we're trying to approach them right now before they actually rebudget in May and June, July. So that we want us to be in their minds right now. So there's a couple of questions here that you can like ask them further to dive into really deeper, to be really honest, to like help yourself understand what their fear or what their thought is actually, to be able to really throw it back at them. Sales is really about being smart. Like, how do you think on your feet and how do you give an answer, even if you don't know or never really practiced it before? That's what sales is about. And that's one of the cool things that you learn about sales. So questions such as like, what are your thoughts on like alleviating or reducing the amount of work on your team organization needs to do? So when you think about that, right, as a company, you always have work to do. As a company, you always have a lot of projects. I'm assuming if you are successful or like really like striving to like make profit, right, you always have a lot of work to do. So in terms of like when, my question here is like, I'm trying to get them to think, when is it not the right time for you to get more work done? When is it not the right time for you to have more people to help you out? Right? And in terms of like, if they're thinking this is just not the right time or it's going to take them too much time, actually, it won't take them much time at all. So instead of going straight into it and be like, no, actually, it doesn't take much time from you at all, that we handle all these things, dive deeper. Like, start to pull out like their fears and concerns a little bit more, draw it all out before you actually answer to them. If you draw it out, like in terms of they do have a lot of work right now or a lot of projects going on, then you can come back later. Actually, the only thing that you need to be involved with is 3 tasks to actually like write up the job description of what you really need right now, or like what help you would actually need or want to produce more work and impact in your organization. And after that, we find all the candidates, you choose who you like, you interview, and we're ready to go. That's it. Like, you can break it down as simple as that for them if they're really worried about that they have to put too much investment. Why do they actually tell you that they don't have time for this? Because in their mind, they may have recruited before and they're like, okay, I've recruited in the past. It took me 3 months, or I had to interview them. I had to look at the CVs and I had to process all these things. Oh, no. This person's talking about like, what's it called? Recruitment. I can't be bothered. I can't be bothered right now. It's going to take me too much time. It's because of a bad experience that they may be thinking about that as well. Like, I don't know what it is, but until you actually draw it out of them, they might not know how simple our process actually really is. Our process can't get any more simple than that. It's like, tell us what you need, we'll find it for you. You like them, okay, we're good to go. Like, as simple as that. Or asking them other questions such as like, when will be the best time for someone to come in and help your team hassle free? Like, when's the best time for someone to actually just come into your organization and like produce more work for you? And a hassle-free. Why? Because you don't have to take care of any of that at all. Like, we take care of everything. In terms of even like if you need them to do training beforehand, that can be something done before they arrive in Australia. There's a way to work around it. Or like, you can empathize with them and say like, kind of like, oh yes, I understand. Like, finding talent to serve the business needs are like, it's and alleviate the business plans. Takes a lot of planning, and takes a lot of time, and our service is catered to that. For example, they're saying that, oh, I'm not looking for like another project into like another 3-4 months or something along those lines. Tell them that this is something, if we look into now, we explore it and explore what talent is out there. They don't necessarily have to have the person in right away. Actually, it can be a longer term process. Or the other case that I've had, the company that I'm currently working with, they don't know what their projects are yet. They know that they might want people and they're looking for candidates with us right now. However, what he asked me is that if I find the candidate and I don't have the project into maybe August, and even though I know the visa takes about 3 months, if I don't have a project to August, September, can they arrive later? For sure. The visa, once they get approved, it will be valid for a whole year. and it will, as in like until they travel. And once they get to Australia, then their visa starts for 12 months. So actually, once if like I'm an EP and I get a visa right now and I get approved in like say May, and I don't need to come to Australia until August because the project doesn't start until August, that's fine. My visa can sit there. You just need to set the expectation with the EP or the talent themselves, but that is something there that we can do as well. So like in terms of whatever the company actually fears of or like what their concerns are, really draw that out of them. Don't give them all the answers, like because you may give them an answer that doesn't fit in like with the problem they may have. Like draw it out and give them what they need. Thoughts on this, or like when you have been approached this, or how have you answered this before in the past?
To be honest, whenever I hear this, I think like, all right, GG. I'll just contact them in a month or something.
No, don't do that. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is like, don't resign yourself. Like, don't like if the girl's like, oh no, I'm not busy to like go on the second date. I mean, oh, I have assignments. Like, don't like take that as a no for like a no right away. Like ask a little bit more, or like really just like, oh, you're studying. Like, can I study with you or something along that line? I don't care what it is. Don't give up right away. Like, don't be annoying. It's the thin balance between the fine line between like being really annoying or being persistent to understand more, so I can give you more answers, rather than like explaining everything to you in the one go. Because that's the thing, right? Like I told you before, people assume things based on their experiences. So if I recruited before and I like took like 3 months and also like maybe 50 grand to recruit somebody, then I have really bad experience about this. And you're talking to me about recruitment, I already think of you like, nope, long time, too much money, nah, not the right time right now, get off my back. Like that's the objection handling there. Oh, like that's the objection itself.
Oh, sorry, one of the members had a question about our mic doesn't work. Okay, so, wait, is this relevant to the thing happening right now? Hold on. It's like, what happens if a company outsources and they pay 20 grand a year to someone in like India or Asia?
Write that down below and we'll come back to that. I'll just go through the general ones first.
Yeah.
So with 14, this might be something, whether it be in an email. Oh wait, sorry, maybe you've done a call, like a lead gen, or maybe you've been in a meeting and they're just like, oh yeah, email me more information, I'll get back to you, and they never get back to you. And like I was doing some research and it's like, okay, the person that you're talking to may have all the best intention that they want to get back to you, but they'll promise you, but they'll never do it just because like you're not a priority. Like I6 is not a priority. I6 is not that important. Unfortunately, we're just not that important. So if you leave the responsibility for them to actually follow you up, they'll probably never do it. So when I was researching more in tips and tricks, like the thing is like whether it be on a phone call, this is for a phone call in particular, before actually hanging up on them and actually sending them more of the information, which you can actually ask them more or open more for more questions. So for example, just so I know what's included in email, can you tell me, and ask them a couple of things about their company, or ask something so they can open the conversation. So one, your email can be a little bit more catered, and that they know that, okay, if I'm on the other person, right, and I'm like, oh, can you send me more information? Why I say that to you is like, I want you to get off my back so I don't have to talk to you. But if you agree to send me more information, meaning that you agree to stop annoying me, and then you ask me more questions, I might be like, oh, actually, they're not actually as annoying, or like they want to actually get to know, or like they have something there. My guard will actually come off rather than like all be up there. And like that's the thing again, like don't resign to the first thing that they tell you to do. Don't resign to like, I will send them an email and then more information and they'll get back to me. Like try to open up more conversation. Again, it's kind of like you meet a girl or a guy at a club, right? Just ask them for their number or some shit like that. You want to go a little bit more than that. Like that would be that. Now, I always use this analogy because you kind of want to get to know the person a little bit more or get them to trust you. That's what you want them to do.
I came here for iGT advice. I'm going away with dating advice. Thank you, Jenny.
No worries.
Same.
Like emails and getting more information. So like the thing I really want you to take away from this is like ICX or sales in general is like, how do you think on your feet and like get really smart on like building human connections? Because every time someone gives you an objections or every time that they say no, it's because like, it does come from a place where there be a fear, annoyance, or they just don't see you as a priority. You want to make yourself as a priority or value adding. You want to add value in some sort of way. That's just sales in general. 15 is this one is my favorite. When I was doing some research, this is my favorite one after all of them. I can't make a commitment until I meet with the other people. So like that you've gone to a meeting, right? And they're like, oh, I have to get back to you because I'm like, I need to talk to the board of directors, the CEO, something along those lines. In many cases, this does happen because they need to talk to other people, and that's perfectly fine. What you can do as an extra thing that I thought was really cool, which I think you guys should try out, try to get yourself an invite. So if they're trying to like have another meeting with somebody, like don't again like use your common sense about like being creepy or not creepy. It's kind of like ask them, you know, who are you planning to talk to? Oh, okay, cool. You know, when are you planning to have the meeting? I'd be more than happy to actually come to the meeting with you to actually answer anything, or even talk to them, tell them that like, oh, I'd be happy to dial in for about 5 minutes or 10 minutes if you had any questions. I think it would be a lot easier for you if I actually answer the questions if you had any, or ask them about like what things will you be discussing it? Is there anything else that can provide you, or is there any documentations or like a presentation that I can actually provide to you to make it a lot easier for you to talk about it? I'll do, I kind of really want to do what I can to actually make it easier for you. Try to get yourself to actually get an invite. Like when I saw this tip, I thought it was really, really smart, because the thing is, right, even just over the phone, just tell them that you're more than happy to dial in when the meeting's actually happening, or even ask them when the meeting is so you can actually follow them up on it. I obviously haven't used this before. You guys should definitely use it. I think it's not that creepy. I think it's quite smart actually, because what it shows you is it shows them that you're proactive. You want to make their life easier, and you want to like it's like alleviate their pain, or like do something, or you're just like you won't take no for an answer.
So I know you just said you haven't done it before, Jenny, but has anyone in this call actually done that, managed to pull that off? Just by curiosity?
Honestly, like quite honestly, I cannot imagine pulling this off successfully with a company. I don't know. Like I think they'd just be like, "What the fuck?" Like, you know what I mean?
No, it seems like such a good concept. I love it.
It is. Definitely ask them, because the thing is, right, the process where you have a warm company right now, right, and they're like, oh yeah, I need to talk to my CEO, I need to talk to like the rest of my team, something along those lines. Like that's okay. That they do actually legitimately have to talk to other people. Let them know, oh, when you have a meeting, you know, I'd be more than happy just to dial in for maybe 10 minutes. And if you have any questions, you can ask me right there and then, instead of like wasting time. So you don't have to give me a call later. You don't have to.
Yes, sorry, I misunderstood. Yeah, I misunderstood.
Yeah. Like just tell them.
A meeting with another HR company.
Yeah.
I thought that's.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you want to answer the question.
That does sound cool.
Call would be good.
Yeah, I think a call would be good.
Yeah, call would be good. Yeah.
Yeah. Like if they're happy to like drag you to the meeting physically, more than happy to. But like I would give them the least creepy or the least commitment options, such as like, oh, I'd be more than happy to attend the meeting, or even if like you want me to call in for 10 minutes at the very end, if you have any questions, I can quickly answer it for you. Make it casual. Don't make it like really creepy or anything like that. Just make it really casual. That's what you want to do.
Desperate.
If we're still going on the dating advice thing here, this is like meeting the parents almost.
I'm telling you, you can use it for
Shit.
so
That's
like
a metaphor.
I think that like please use this on people, and then like, you know, post it on Facebook and let me know if it works, because I want to actually know if it works. So I haven't used it myself, so because I only started to like research them.
Okay.
16
I'll be
is I don't
a
have
guinea
time
pig,
to
don't
talk
worry.
right now. So this one here, I think Michael said before, this sometimes happens in lead gens or maybe like calls or whatnot, or maybe follow-up calls. And one of the tips or tricks that I found was like, tell them like it's not a problem. Ask them when there is the best time to reach them for a 3-minute conversation. And then I want to see if it's a good time to fit before we talk at any length. Because what you want to tell them right away, when they say this, their fear is like, this conversation is going to take a really long time, and I've got a shitload of work right now, and you're just not a priority. What you want to let them know, sure, no problem, when can I call you back again for a very, very short chat? Like, you're already letting them know that it's going to be a very short, non-committal chat, and that you want to talk to them about. Like, that might be something that breaks down barriers. You want to like figure out where their fear or their thoughts are coming from and break that down. I don't know if people used it before, because I think I've heard some people with their cold calls have said that it's a short chat, but you might want to actually put a time to it. So like really make them understand the chat's going to be like really short. It might not be 3 minutes, but in their head, when you tell them 3 minutes, they will expect 3 minutes, or as an example.
Just the language of the, like, I want to see if we're even a good fit, makes it sound like the underlying assumption is they're not a good fit, and we're kind of confirming that. You know what I mean? And I don't know if, yeah. I don't know. Whatever you guys think.
Can change that. Anything else that people have used before in terms of like when people say that, oh, I don't have time to talk right now?
No, I often get the, oh, are you able to come for a meeting? I've been quite successful for this, as you can tell by my Facebook posts, but I tend to ask straight up, like, oh, look, I can't talk as well on the phone. I can't talk over email. Would it be better if we just meet so I could explain a better situation? And people are just generally, all right, yeah, let's do that. It's easier that way. They tend to just kind of think, oh yeah, the meeting will be over. It'll be over and done with.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yep, that would be good. No, that would be the best protocol. Like, if people are comfortable with that, or in terms of like if they're happy to meet, that's a lot better. Because I always put myself in a position where I'm like, oh, more than happy to just drop by or like have a very quick coffee chat. Like, I understand like having a conversation face to face is always so much better than a phone call. Like, I would use and like jump on empathizing as like human interaction. Like that, like in terms of calls or like just meetings in general, I take it very casually. That like that is the tone and that is like the way that I actually like hold meetings. Like, I try to empathize as much with them as possible in that sense. That is the main 5 objections that I like collated at the very least. And then we can go into more of an open space. These are the ones that were there on Tuesday's webinar. And then I think I left it there in terms of how to approach non-for-profit or hiring local versus global talent, going home after the talent. Oh, like as in like they don't want the talent to go home, like back to their own country, like go away, like what I think Cindy's question before was, or they need people right now, or we don't have time. These are a couple of things there. We'll answer more of the questions that someone, I think Michael wrote down here. So Michael, is this your question?
We don't have time. That was answered. Yes,
Mine was the case study example. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Example of EP case studies and case study with customers to handle objections with. As in, like, you need more case studies?
As in, today I had a case where I was asked for an example of a case study in a specific area, and I just flat out could not. I just said to them, "I'm sorry, I can't help you in this area. I don't know of any case studies." So I just
like what industry or what work?
It was it development or it was engineering.
Oh.
So it's just engineering is like, okay, has the intern had previous work experience? I'm like, I'm not able to answer accurate case study on this.
Yeah.
I just want to know if we have examples of case studies in any of the iGT folders.
We don't have it there. That's currently what I'm working on in terms of the team that's working with me. They're going to be downloading all the CVs that we currently have or had EPs that come before, so they're real examples. However, in terms of like when you reach a case like this and they ask really specific things, do tell them, oh, we've had so many. This one I'm actually not too sure about. I can actually come back to you and like send you through more information. I just know that straight out engineering projects wise, we don't have any. Like in terms of like engineering companies before, no. In terms of like software and more like IT engineering, yes. In terms of engineering, no. That's like my first answer. In terms of what I'm
video game engineering,
there will be some case studies within by I think next Wednesday. I should have a folder there with CVs of people that we've had before and company names and the job description there, so that everyone can start to review. Like you're going for an exam and you know examples to review.
No, perfect.
Yeah, can I just add something? So this morning I went for a meeting with Josh and Elaine.
Elaine.
What that person told us was he was actually giving us feedback on like how to pitch and stuff, because I think he's a really good salesperson. And what he say, he advised us to have like case study of like, for example, we have this participants that went to this marketing company, and then in let's say 3 months, what's their achievement, and then like something that we can tell to each all types of companies. So, for example, there are case studies for marketing companies, online media companies. So each of the industries, so that we can tell them all these stories when they are so to be more convincing.
What
our program
that is something that we've always struggled with, because we haven't had enough people to work on it, and that's something I'm currently working on right now to get more case studies. On the have you guys watched the iGT what's it called, the testimonial video that I've got up there, or like have people
Great Connect?
Grad Connect, yeah.
Not really.
This is the first time I've heard of it, sorry.
All right, let me quickly show you. So on there, if you do suss it out, I know it's not like the best of things, but like it's like if anyone dies or like if I die and like there's like no information, all the information and most of the time answers are on here. Do have a look at them, or if you do have a question that's not here, let your VP or let me know about it. But in testimonials down here, I try to like section it as like easy accessible as possible. So this currently right now, it will be more updated, but the partners that we currently have in Australia, you can start to throw names out there based on the cities. There's one video, I know there's only one right now. There's one video testimonial that we have here. So feel free to jump on it later. It's a YouTube video of Grad Connect, and I can briefly show it to you here, but you can probably look at it a little bit later. This is something that you can probably don't show them. Don't show them at the sitting there because it's like 2 minutes, but something you can send to them later. So this is like Grad Connect and the project, and they're talking about it. This like my like longer term plan is have some people on my team actually go and like film some of our current partners to do this. So we have one in the works of coming out within the next say month and a half. But like that is a video to show because it's quite a nice video, and Grad Connect, people know who Grad Connect is. And you think about it, right? Grad Connect helps people find internships and jobs. So a HR company technically hired someone from with us, so should do work with them. So Michael's question says, we already outsourced to Asia and pay $20,000 a year. Do you want to explain a little bit more about this, Michael?
So basically, this is my member whose mic doesn't work at the moment. But from what her text says, it's like the company says we can already get similar caliber work outsourcing remotely to somewhere in Asia for a cheaper price.
Did you ask them more questions? What I would do, how I would approach it, I'm like, you know, what type of work did they do? Yeah, I know that, like, that makes a lot of sense. You know, the word is someone's video. That's how kind of the world works. I like, you know, it's a lot easier that way. It's a lot of like freelancing. What type of like, if you don't mind me asking, you know, what type of work did they do? Is it like a lot of projects? Like for us, right? Like, I think the difference here is that if we do have someone internationally come in, it is like a lot more, I guess, full-time face-to-face work there. So that would be the only like, I guess the difference there, that I can like dedicate their full-time towards yourself, work with your team physically. I mean, that's why we do have physical teams as much as the different type of work that you can produce from outsourcing it. This will be just the difference there. And in terms of if you kind of think about $20,000 and the full-time minimum salary that our visa requires, about $36,000, that extra $16,000 obviously does just produce different values. You can work with them face to face and the cultural integration there, whereas working with someone over I guess just outsourcing, you don't necessarily get the 100% cultural integration. That's a value difference there. So for me, how I would actually would be I wouldn't like what's it called, kind of like put their idea down, such as like, oh, your idea is shit or something like that. I would recognize their ideas. I would pull out the differences, and then I will pull out our differences. And at the same time, I'll try to make them understand, oh, it's just different. It's just different. These are just the different value propositions that we have there. And this will be the different value. And I guess that's where the money comes in. And I would still like advocate what they're doing, like outsourcing. Like, yeah, for sure, that's a great idea. And like a lot of companies do it. Like, validate them. Don't make them feel like shit. Like, validate what they're doing, and at the same time, tell them even better what we do is this is a different value there. That's how I'd approach it.
Can you, in that situation, also explain, since we don't just pull from Asia, we also pull from all over the globe, so it does allow them more global outreach?
Yeah.
Or do you just keep focus on the whole Asia sentiment there?
You can focus on Asia, but in particular, right, you need to ask them, like, oh, what type of work did they do? Or was there any particular reason as to why you outsourced to Asia? Or like what type of industry? So they might have outsourced to Asia because it was the cheapest. I don't know, whatever it is, depending on what they tell you, they might tell you different. Like whether it be different skills, and different skills may exist in different countries, in particular, like more of a niche. And then that's where I would go on it. Like in terms of like Asia, I don't know. Like maybe that was like I don't know, IT, which is actually quite popular to be outsourced into Asia. Then that's what I would ask. So like when you ask more about that, right, they're like, oh yeah, we outsource some of our IT or software development in Asia or something like that. You can tell them, oh yes, we also do have a lot of people who actually they come from Asia through ISIC and actually do that. So like they'll probably be doing similar work. I guess this is the difference with they'll be there working face to face with you, be able to like see you guys and like work as a physically within the team. And as you know, company culture and like working face to face and human interaction is quite important. So that would be just a difference there in comparison to outsourcing. That's all. Like I would
Okay. Yeah.
the differences.
So focusing more on the value of the person than of the value of the cost.
Yeah, for sure. Because if you think about it, right? Like I always use the example of the Apple iPhone. If the people who went to Sales Summit, Apple iPhone, like that might really cost Apple to make it like $200. Like cost-wise in human resources, $200. We pay $1,000 because like it's like simple to use. It's really sexy. It's really trendy. I don't care whatever it is. That $1,000, the premium there is not the cost of it. It is like more of the sentiment and the like intangible values. So that I would go like by that in terms of like outsourcing $20,000. That is a cost of itself. There's always a pro and con to something. And like paying someone to come here physically is always a pro and con to something. Like you lose some, you win some. Any questions with this? Or any other additional questions? Or other like objections?
I don't know if we have answered it. It's just like the same with the third question, the third common question.
This one?
Yeah. So I think most of the time we do ask them like what kind of information would be helpful to them. But a lot of the time we get like the same response back, just like send us general information. How do you continue to push?
So what do you ask them?
I think like they say just email us for more information, but then we would respond like what kind of information would be helpful to you that you would specifically need. But then they come back again saying like just send us the general information without answering our question.
How do other people answer this one?
I guess ask questions and see what like specific things they want to know. It's hard to say given that. Wait, could you repeat that?
I think we already asked that question, but they
and
come
then they're
back
just like
with the same response of like very.
Sometimes what I would do is if they say I'll get back to you, I sometimes prompt them and say, when do you think you'll be able to get back to me by? Because then it kind of forces them to come up with a date, like a time to get back to you.
Forcing them on a timeline does sound a good idea, because what you're doing there as well is if you keep them open-minded, so say they ask for general information, give them some information and follow up with, oh, hey, can you get back to me? Not can you get back to me? And it's just, I had something for this. I've just absolutely lost everything I was going to say. Sorry, guys. Dagisha, let me think.
It's hard to say, I think, given the context leading up to that would be different every time. So maybe, I guess, think hard about what you've already discussed, what you know about the company, and maybe suggest like other things that you might not have before based on what you've already talked about, or anything that you think you haven't mentioned. I don't know. It's pretty hard. Yeah.
I wonder if you can send them information and then if they only tell you like, oh, can you send me more information, I'll get back to you, and they don't answer you, send them some very general information like a 1 slider or 2 slider, and like before actually sending to them, before hanging up with the phone or something like that, ask them, sure, I can send you through the information, can I also at the same time maybe lock you in for another catch-up phone call, or like for a 3-minute chat so I can actually explain it. I know sometimes our information can be quite a little bit confusing, and I hate for you to get confused with it. So I'd love to actually explain a little bit more to you. Can I lock in a date or like lock in a time or something along this line? I'm not too sure if that works. They might brush you off on it, like because that's how sales kind of works. But that might be something to be able to lock it in a little bit more, or like tell them like, oh, I'd love to explain it to you in like within 2 minutes.
I think that's actually close to what I was going to say before. It's just follow up with, if you want a better explanation of this, I can explain better in person or over the call. So that kind of gives you a timeline of, oh, they've read this information. Obviously, if they're not going to respond, I'm not going to respond. That kind of sucks. But if they're actually interested in this information, they're going to approach you and be like, oh, I see, okay, about this logistics thing. So what do you mean it's completely hassle-free? So follow on from that and whatnot.
Yeah, that, or in particular when they when you tell them that you're going to send them more information and they said they'll get back to you, so like, oh, can you give me a rough time when you get back to me so I can actually like expect it, or so that I know I won't be too busy that day to take a phone call or something like that. I actually prefer taking a phone call, so if you can give me a call back, something along those lines that make them lock it in. I would try to I'll try my best to actually lock it in and send that Google Calendar invite over. I'm not too sure. You'd have to like suss it out, but I'll try to lock in the time to actually like follow up. Instead of us always following up with an email or phone call or something along those lines, like lock in a date before you hang up.
Could you also, I've not tried it before. I'm not sure if it's too pushy or not, but because I remember you mentioned at Sales Summit about the importance of using a Google Calendar invite in follow-up emails like this. Could you just do that? Like, would you be able to get back to me at this date and then just put the date in, and then even if they're not happy with the date, they still have to respond to you and get back to you just to change that date anyway, because you've already put yourself in their calendar.
Yeah. So in that call, I know it's being pushy, I know it's being a little persistent, but if they don't reply to you, they don't reply to you. We don't really have much to lose. We really don't have anything to lose. So like, send them the information and like, how about I can get back to you within 2 days, or like, I can follow you in 2 days, or if you could, it'd be best if you get back with me within 2 days so I can let you know more information. And whilst on that topic, let me send you through a Google Calendar invite for 2 days. How does 10:30 a.m. sound? Or like whatever it is, just like try to set a date, try to be persistent, and like, I don't know, they may agree to it. I don't know, because the thing is, right, they don't agree to it, they're most likely not even going to read your information, like, to be really honest. If this is a phone call, if this is a lead generation, if it's a meeting already, you've already met up, and that's a little bit of a different story. Do other people have other objections?
Actually, could we just go back to the, I believe it was the second objection? Or maybe second or the fourth? Hold on, I'm just looking at the screen now. It was the second one. It was the second one, sorry. So with companies that have gone back to us and said, oh, hey, look, right now is not a good time. Can you get back to me in, like, we're going to start looking at this again in, say, August. Is it better for us to, as a result, kind of keep that early contact on? So say that, most of our if we're looking at graduates right now, the best time right now is obviously 3 months from now, because by 3 months from now, they're all graduated. Do we kind of sell that to them? Like, since a lot of them tend to come from the North American hemisphere of schooling, like a lot of them will be graduating June, July. Do we try to sell that to people, or do we just let people kind of take it as they can, like whatnot?
Never let them take it as they can. Okay, I would actually leverage on that and like, yes, for sure. When obviously we want to do it when the best time is for you. I do want to let you know that like a lot of the people that we do work with, a lot of our talent does tend to apply. So the best of our talent does tend to apply within these time period. Like tell them the month, and in addition, right, tell them like in terms of August, is that when you're looking for people, or is that like when you're planning to have projects? Kind of like ask them a little bit more questions, and then once you understand, then let them know. Because for example, right, they're like, okay, we won't have a project until August. Tell them about like even the example that I had, like even if you don't have a project, then you can actually like start finding or looking for people even now or a bit earlier. Or tell them like, oh yeah, not a problem. We know that you might not be looking in August, September. However, our process does take a little bit of longer time due because of the the visa time process. So it's actually more convenient if we actually do start earlier or anything along those lines as well. So like tell them about like the pros about like hiring now because of our graduates, or like our talent is there. And in addition, it's also if they're going to do long-term planning, that we can plan with them even earlier, or even if they don't have a project in mind, they can suss out what the talent is there available, because our talent are of high caliber, of a more competitive RC. Because the company that I'm currently working with right now, right, the reason why he's came back to us, it's because like Like, honestly, the people that he's hiring right now in Australia, easily 70,000, 80,000, 90K. Okay, 9K might be too much, right? 70, 80,000, easily. He's looking for business analysts where he's looking for people who has like a shit ton of like experience, and he's paying them $36,000 a year. Like, I think he might be upping it to 40,000, but that man is a smart businessman. And if you be able to get that to people, like, you can hire people that in Australia you would pay $70,000, $80,000 for, and you can pay them $36,000. Not saying that we're cheap, but saying that it's quite cost effective. And these people here can have talent, and what they mainly want to do is come over to a different country, really learn something, and also learn leadership skills. It's a really big value added benefit. Like, they'd be like quite silly, because most of the time people don't get that right away, because I don't want to obviously at the very first point be like, oh, you can get really good talent for really cheap, because that's not what I want to sell. But I want to be able to help them understand that. That's why some of the proposal slides, you do see that I've like portioned it down to like, to hire someone for a year, it costs them $40,000. Let them know what the talent caliber is, and maybe even let them know. We understand that someone you look for this in Australia might, easily cost in the market be around 70, 80,000, like market cost wise. In terms of our talent here, they are of high caliber, and the reason why they do usually come to Australia for a lot lower is because all these other values that they actually want with our organization, affiliated with ISEC, and not so much of the salary. That's why in terms of like market wise, like market industry cost of someone of this caliber, this is kind of what you're looking at. So this is why a lot of the partners or the organization that's working with us do affiliate with ISEC. That would be the answer I would give them, to like let them know, like, this is really cheap to find someone of really good caliber. Not that that's our main value proposition, but
yeah, no, I understand. No, it makes a lot of sense. Thank you for that.
Oh, good. Any other questions? We have gone over time by 8 minutes, but what I was going to do after the webinars, I'm going to post this up on the Facebook, and at the same time, I'm going to start a thread. So on Facebook, we'll just use it as a forum. So I'll post one, and then I'll try to pin it. And so we're like, objections. And then if anyone ever has objections, like shove it on there. And so people can start to see, and other people can start to comment. I can comment on there instead of just you asking your VP only, because obviously your VP has limited experiences there. I have limited experiences. Everyone here has limited experience. But when we come together, we can really bounce off creative ideas. Kind of like how I've just like researched some ideas, which I haven't tried, which you guys will try. And then you guys can let rest of everybody if it works or not, trying to invite yourself to a meeting. So that's what I'm going to do after this. And then if you see that these things are useful, or it's more of a need, start letting your VPs know, because your VPs talk to me about this, and I saw this as a need, and that's why we have a webinar. So yeah. But that is it for the webinar in terms of like timing wise.
Awesome, thanks.
And so like moving on, like when you practice your pitch in the future, make sure you practice objection handling. And like for me, it's my style, though I don't know how everyone else kind of does it. For me, I try to like, when handling objections, I make it as, I really want them to let them know that, yes, I do empathize with you. So I always agree with them and then let them know something. That's my style. Figure out what style works for you, but really do practice that as well. And every time you have a successful objection, like you handle objection well, write that down, note that down, like share with your team, share with the network. Do a selfie. Like even if it was just a phone call, I don't care if you don't. You know how we just have meeting selfies now. If you have more selfies to put on there, or tip or trick, chuck it on there. Because like that's the only way we kind of like learn from each other. I mean, we're not for profit. We don't have that much resources, so we have to learn off each other. But yes, that is it for this webinar.
No, thank you, Jenny.
Welcome. Thank you for everyone.
Hey, Jenny.
Thanks, Jennifer.
No worries.
Jennifer.
It's not
We'll
Jennifer.
get you an open, don't worry.
Bye-bye. This will be recorded. I'll post it on YouTube. All right.
Ah,
Bye-bye.
no.
This is recorded.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.